Hey, Thomas. Hey, you're heading global go-to-market for working capital management at SAP. And I recently read that up to 44 trillion of US dollar is locked down in terms of working capital in global supply chains. What does that mean?
Yeah, first of all, thanks a lot for having me, Christian. When I read 44 trillion first, I was quite shocked, to be honest. But if you think about the impact of COVID as well, and a lot of companies really piling up stocks again, just to make sure that they don't face any supply chain disruptions, it's actually quite logical. But this, of course, is a huge problem because on the other side, SMBs, according to a JP Morgan study, only have enough cash for the next 27 days. So we actually need to free up this trapped cash and really make it available so that companies can keep producing to keep the supply chains intact.
So we think that this big chunk of 44 trillion US dollar could become liquidity relevant. That's significant. Now, and we think about also, what has changed since COVID, where we rather looked at low interest rates, right, to secure the economy. Now, interest rates are going up due to the inflation also, right? That means also that the problem that we had anyways with the piled up working capital lockdown becomes much, much more a challenge for businesses, right?
That's absolutely right. And probably also the reason why we see now that more and more companies really have a working capital management strategies. If you ask treasurers or would have asked treasurers and CFOs in the past, probably that was not really a focus topic. As you said, liquidity was almost for free. But now with the rising interest rates, working capital definitely is a focus topic. And it will stay a focus topic because we know that inflation for next year, according to OECD, will stay above 6% globally. In Germany, I think it's around 8%, the expectation. So it's definitely becoming or will be one of the focus topics for next year as well.
Yeah, so working capital being a significant lever for businesses to improve business performance, right? And to have a healthy corporate setup and stay liquid. And you mentioned a working capital strategy as a foundation for that. So what is a working capital strategy?
Well, working capital strategy is really providing answers and KPIs on how you want to manage your cash conversion cycle. So the cash conversion cycle basically has three components, right? It's the DPO, days payables outstanding, DSO, days sales outstanding, and days inventory outstanding, DIO. And it's really about aligning on the KPIs how you want to measure and improve your cash conversion cycle. And that's a cross-departmental effort. So it cannot be only driven by Treasury. Treasury, of course, is in the driver's seat, but really needs to be looked at holistically.
So a strategy, yes, a holistic approach towards working capital management. And also, of course, you mentioned KPIs means that we have to start with the analysis, right? We have to understand where we are, and then we go into optimization. So let's look a bit at how SAP supports that strategy from the analysis into optimization.
Yeah. And that's the great thing. We really support it now with Toya together end to end, because we start and always started with the understand part, so the analysis part. And there it's all about having a robust cash and liquidity forecast. And you will hear me saying that I really hope now with this crisis, more and more treasurers get the budget and a project set up to really automate or have a IT-based approach to cash and liquidity forecasting. Unfortunately, a lot of companies are still doing it on Excel, which I think it's now really time to use the technology that is available to create also what I call a resilience muscle, because the next crisis will come anyway. So that is something that is here to stay, and you need really this insight into KPIs, using the data out of the system, making use of ML and AI to have a robust forecast. And then it's all about the execution, right? And with execution, I would say there are two parts that we see. One is more short-term focused execution, or quick wins, you could call it, via financing alternatives. This is where Toya comes into the game, right? Providing payables, receivables, and inventory financing to improve your working capital KPIs. But the other part, and that's equally important, is really more process-based improvements along the entire supply chain. So this starts with demand planning, with inventory management, with the right procurement processes, invoice approval times, but also the cash collection processes. So really end-to-end looking at your supply chain and see what can you improve in your processes to improve your working capital management. And that's, of course, a part where SAP was always quite strong and did already improvements, but now we can combine both. So we have the short-term view and the longer-term improvements.
So everything starts with the insight, right? You mentioned the cash forecast, working capital analytics, and then these improvement steps. When we link that to what customers are doing, right? Process transformation is the core business of SAP. Mm-hmm. At the moment, a lot of S/4HANA transformations are ongoing. That means change in logistical processes, right? As you said, demand and supply planning, transportation, warehouse management, and similar, all of that impacting, of course, working capital KPIs, such as DIO, right? But also, of course, finance transformation, looking at receivables management processes, all kind of treasury processes around that as well. So that's all process transformation. And now Taulia comes into the play, as you see, for the short-term optimization through a financing platform. So what characterizes now Taulia as a platform?
Yeah. It's three things for me, to be honest. One is it's a holistic platform, so meaning all three components, as we said, that cover the cash conversion cycle are included: payables, receivables, and inventory financing. Second one is it's a network, meaning it brings suppliers, buyers, and funders together. And with the funder, we have more than 20 banks actually who provide financing, which provides for customers the choice which funders to use, but also security, because given the increasing credit risk, it's all about being flexible and changing funders if needed. And the third one for me as a USP is really, it's all about automation and integration. So Taulia is integrated into S4. It's integrated into the business network. We will further double down on that integration as well, to really automate as much as possible the working capital financing processes.
That's great. So SAP is serving now, as we said, with a holistic strategy from analytics to optimization. Now, the question is, of course, where should customers start, right? So what is a good starting point for such a strategy?
Yeah, I think the first step always is, and that's what I would definitely recommend, is to do a benchmark, an industry benchmark. Where are you in terms of your working capital compared to your industry peers, so to say? And that's, of course, something where we can help with the benchmarking to really see what is the improvement potential. And then, of course, the next step is to align cross-departmental, what are the KPIs that you first want to drive to really see some improvements. And once this is done, then it's really about the execution, where we can help short-term as well as longer-term with process optimization.
So as we said, right, I mean, a significant portion of liquidity locked down, challenging year coming up. So customers have to act rather fast. So therefore, how long does it take, right? It's a typical big SAP transformation project, right, taking 2 years. So how long does it take now when we look at the short-term option of Taulia to get respective financing options through the platform?
Yeah, and that was one of the reasons actually why we also acquired Taulia, to be really fast, right? To drive optimization fast as it is needed right now. So SAP itself we did also an implementation of Taulia, started now in the US with payables financing. And that took us 3 months to do the implementation. And that's typically what we also see with other customers. So typical process really from starting the projects until the first suppliers are on the platform and really get early payments via the platform. That's done within 3 months, which then really realize also the value for companies, right?
Great. So if we kind of wrap it up, right, working capital is absolutely key, right? Liquidity is key now for businesses, especially now in these times. Second, first time in our history, right, we have a true holistic working capital strategy, which is absolutely amazing. But 3, and that's absolutely great, giving the power of a platform, we can act super fast. It's a matter of months. It's not a matter of years. So if you have any kind of challenge in your business in terms of working capital, we're here to help in a rather fast manner, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Looking forward to help, of course.
Super. Great. Thanks for the exchange, Thomas.
Thank you.